Hi guys, and welcome back to the Daily Woman blog. I'm going to be starting today a blog series that I like to call Daily Devotions, and those are basically just devotionals from my own quiet time in my personal time with God, and I basically am just going to share my opinions, my thoughts, my feelings about what I've read with you. So today's blog is starting out with revenge. A couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, actually, I graduated from high school and drifted away from the people that were around me, the friends that I had and hung out with every day, like most people do. I mean, it's not a big deal. But, I mean, I had just gotten out of a really bad relationship, one that was not necessary. It wasn't abusive, but it was not healthy, so to speak. And so I just really struggled a lot because I expected in my time of need that my best friend at the time would be there for me and she would help me through it. And she kind of just dipped out and was like, this is too much for me. So I was really hurting there for a while. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. My trusty handy dandy, I guess. Handy dandy little notepad on my phone. Anyway, so I just got out of a bad relationship, so I kind of, I was really angry. I isolated myself from everyone. I didn't really want to spend time with anyone. I was just very hurt and very bitter and grieving over my ended relationship. But her and I were, she wasn't really around, but I hadn't really realized it yet. So I still spent time with her sometimes. I went to, she was my best friend, so I went to her boyfriend's party so that she wasn't the only girl kind of thing. And I ended up meeting my boyfriend, Brian. He was best friends with her boyfriend. So that's how we actually went to school together all throughout high school. We knew who each other was, but we never really considered dating, and it was kind of love at first sight. I like to say. We actually ended up talking for like a month before he asked me out, and now we are 2.5 years in, and we're going really strong. And anyway, sidetracked, sorry. So I started dating him. He's amazing. He supports me more than anyone in my life. I mean, my parents support me in a parental way, but he's really, truly my best friend. And I can trust him in anything I do, especially with this blog, because it is very, very scary. So he helped me feel loved and cherished again, and eventually I moved on. But along the way, I started to fester these wounds. I was still really angry. I was very, very hurt, and I didn't really ever grieve over it in the time frame that I'm talking about. He helped me with that eventually, but I really festered from the hurt from my so-called friends. They told me things like I wasn't good enough for him. I'm not really sure why. Maybe because we didn't get along. They just assumed that I was gonna not get along with him and that he was going to get his hopes up for something that wasn't going to happen. I'm really not sure there. They told me that going to college was a waste of time. I should just go to community college because eventually I was just going to be a mother, whether it was with Brian or not, and that I was going to lose all my interests and give everything up anyway to take care of my kids. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with only going to community college. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, which I actually want to do. There's nothing wrong with any of that. There's something wrong with people telling you that you can't do something that you want to do, though. I wanted to go to college. I wanted a degree. It was my dream, and they kind of pooped on it. And that's what's not okay. Yeah, so they told me that it was pointless because I was going to become a mother someday. And they told me that if I really, truly loved Brian as much as I said I did, I wouldn't leave him in another town to go to school, even if it was only for 1 year or even if the plan was that he would eventually move down there with me, or we were going to take care of it, we were going to decide, we were going to make those decisions, and it was no one else's business, and everyone kind of just took his side. We weren't arguing about it. We weren't fighting over whether or not I was going to stay. We were not having problems because of it. He was supporting me. He was helping me get ready. He was helping me pack. He was helping me do all the things I needed to do to get down there. He even went down and helped me move into my dorm room. It was just them telling me that I couldn't do something. And it was very hard for me. I try not to let people's opinions of me affect me, but they do. Especially when it's not like they were his friends looking out for him. They were our friends separately before we even got together. And then as soon as we started dating, it was like no one cared about me. He helped me through all that. He supported me more than anyone outside my family. He took me down there and he helped me get back into God's Word. He supported me and supported me going back to church and getting into a college group there. And he was just amazing through all of it. Before I left, though, I had finally had enough. I actually ended up canceling my own going away party, which some people don't care about, but I was very excited for it. And I canceled it because I'd rather not have it than have it and find out that no one's gonna come. And that's what I thought I was facing. I still had a party, but it was just with my family and Brian. We went bowling. It was a lot of fun. Very intimate in a family setting. But it was hard for me. And even after I left, I didn't get the satisfaction of leaving that I wanted. It was more like no one even cares that I'm gone. So, but before I left, I finally had enough, and I unfriended everyone on Facebook, which it doesn't seem like a really big deal, but for me, it was me making room for kicking out the old, making room for the new. I wanted a fresh start. I wanted to be confident when I went in and tried to make new friends in this new place that I love Ashland. I really, really do. I love that place, but I was nervous, Everyone gets nervous. So I unfriended everyone. I did not, however, realize the effects it would have on Brian's life. There were arguments between him and I about how much time he would spend with them, me feeling like I'm leaving soon, I'm not getting enough time with you, them feeling like he was picking me over them, and it wasn't fair to him. It was making his life really difficult with them, and I would go on rants about how they weren't being fair, how he's not in a relationship with them, blah, 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 and they would do the same, and it just put him in a really hard position because they were really just looking out for his well-being. They weren't being malicious. They weren't making fun of me. They weren't trying to get me to break up with him. They really had his intents at heart. It didn't come across that way, but that's really what they were doing. And so when all this conflict started, he really had a hard time because he couldn't. I wanted him to stop being friends with them, even though they didn't really do anything wrong, and they didn't do anything to him. They're really good to him, and it just became a big problem. And it caused a lot of hurt and heartache and bitterness for me, for him, for everyone around. My own act of selfish revenge hurt those around me. And actually, the way that I personally define revenge is, it is the urge to harm someone who has wronged you in some way. It is often an easy feeling to get stuck on even without acting on it. Often, revenge doesn't only harm those you wish to harm, but you and others around you. It's an unending circle that feeds hurting hearts and angry minds. And I fully believe that. I fully believe that it hurts your surroundings. It hurts your life. It is this thing created by Satan that just, he wants you to get revenge. And God is saying, no. No, my child, do not. I am here for you. I will take care of it. I don't believe in karma, but I do believe that Jesus will take care of what he needs to take care of. And even if someone is against you, he's got something better for your life. You are being shaped for your life. My pastor today, actually at church this morning, said something about this. He said that sometimes we feel like we're being shelved and we're not being used. And I feel like this pertains to this very well, because if you may want to do something, revenge or anything, you may want to be moving, but God is seasoning you. He's preparing you for what is to come. So when I eventually did get back into Bible journaling in college, a little bit before that, but I really got back into journaling in college, I came across a passage in Genesis 34, 30 through 31. But before I tell you about that, I want to tell you the backstory of that verse. Genesis 34 is a passage about how Dinah, the daughter of Jacob and Leah, went into the town to work with local women and was eventually kidnapped and raped by Prince Shechem, I think is how it's pronounced. Afterwards, he was so infatuated with her that he actually went to Jacob to beg him to let him marry her, to have his blessing. So even though he had taken her and raped her and used her in a way that no father should be okay with, and I'm sure Jacob was not okay with it, he still went and begged for his blessing. He went with his father Hamor to beg Jacob for his blessing to marry her. Her two brothers, Levi and Simon, told the prince that if he and all his men circumcised themselves, that they would give him their sister. After everyone was asleep, actually 3 days later, they waited till everyone was asleep. They had all circumcised themselves. They were waiting for their wounds to heal. Levi and Simon snuck into the town and slaughtered the men and took their possessions, livestock, jewelry, furniture, anything that they could grab. When they returned home, Jacob spoke with them. So Genesis 34, 30 through 31. Then Jacob said to Simon and Levi, You have brought on me by making me a stench. You have brought trouble on me by making me a stench to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me, I and my household will be destroyed. But, they replied, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? Now, I know what you're thinking. They had every right to be angry. They had every right to want revenge. Even, it's a sinful feeling. It's a temptation. I understand that. And they had every right to be angry and furious. However, their plan was for revenge, not for rescue. It was to do justice in a way that only God can take care of. They took things into their own hands, and they brought more pain on their family instead of relieving it. They took the pain that was on Dinah, and they put it on their father, Jacob. Because now there are two armies, who are angry with him because they're his sons. 1 Peter 3:9 says, Do not repay evil with evil, or insult with insult. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing, because to this you have been called, so that you may inherit blessing. 1 Thessalonians 5:15, Make sure that nobody pays back wrong for wrong, but always strive to do what is good for each other and everyone else. 2 Corinthians 13:11, Finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice. Strive for full restoration. Encourage one another. Be of one mind. Live in peace. And the God of love and peace will be with you. Over and over again, God says to look the other way from revenge, to trust Him, to love our enemies. And as hard as that is, if we help each other and lean on God, we can come back from any hurt or pain inflicted on us or anyone else. If we help each other, we can get through the hardest of times. In some cases, we may even be able to bless those who have inflicted pain on us. The world needs more love and happiness. It needs peace, and that is only achieved through God and through everyone's cooperation. So, thank you for watching, and leave in the comments a time when you've had to overcome revenge, or how you've helped someone else overcome revenge, or how a bad situation blossomed into a beautiful friendship.